welcome. Good morning. How you guys doing? What a good morning to wake your morning up with coffee and sports in the morning in the Sports Empire Network. I am your host, Coach Dante. I got my co-host, Mo Betta, and got my other co-host, Mr. Chris. How we doing this morning, fellas? How we doing?
I'm blessed, Coach. Woke up to another beautiful day.
Yep.
Gentlemen, happy to be here as always, and we got ourselves an NBA champion.
Oh yeah, man. We got an NBA champion, man. We got an NBA champion. We crowned it last night. Tough, rugged ball game, but got some interesting topics, man. Can the Nuggets put it together for the next 2 or 3 years? Is Nikola Jokic a top five center in the game, which is everybody know he may be. We'll get into that soon. Are Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic the best duo? Was Jimmy Butler tied? Is Jimmy Butler a Hall of Famer? But we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that as this show goes on. But we're gonna talk about the game last night. We're gonna preview the game last night as we crown a new 2023 NBA champion. Denver Nuggets won a close game, 94-89. It was a defensive struggle, offensive struggle, by the way. You have the Miami Heat shot ferocious from the field, 34%. They was 9 of 35 from 3. They were 25%, and you got Denver did not shoot that much better from the 3-point line. So Mo, go ahead, give me your initial reaction on Denver winning the title last night.
First, congratulations to Nuggets Nation and to the Joker for winning his first Finals MVP. I thought Game 5 played out a lot like 3 and 4. Miami played well for a half. They played really well in the first half, but I really think when you watch the game, because nothing comes easy for them, I really thought they shot their best shot in the first half. Denver steps on the gas a little bit in the third quarter, and even though Denver didn't play their best basketball, they were very sloppy with the ball, you never got the feeling that Miami had control of the game. Like, even when it was close, one possession game, I never felt like Denver felt threatened because they knew Joker could make a shot, Murray can make a shot. Like, they had shot makers, and Miami has, I would say, a worn down Jimmy Butler, and that's just not enough. So that's how the game played out. It played out pretty much like 3 and 4. The better team stepped on the gas, and then they surged their way to a title.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I mean, if you look at kind of how all 5 games in this series went, the Heat basically played better for the most part first halves across the board than the Nuggets did for the most part. And then it was that second half push that we basically saw even in Game 2, the game where the Nuggets lost, they had a good third quarter. They were just really sloppy in the fourth quarter, which led to them actually losing that game. But last night, same thing. The Heat came out. They played better in the first half. You didn't feel terrible about it as a Nuggets fan going into halftime. You've seen this show before. And then the Nuggets come out. I think they were +6 after the third quarter. They start off hot in the fourth quarter, and you're basically like, okay, this is exactly where we've been the past couple of games. And then the Heat go on a run. You know, I think it was down to 4 at one point. Yeah, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I'm still not feeling it. Like, they cut it to 4. Miami made a couple of shots, but even the shots they made, you're like, okay. Like, you never really felt they got back in the game, even though on the scoreboard they were technically back in the game. And that just goes to show, you know, your eyes don't deceive you. The Nuggets were the better team this entire series. Yep. And no matter what Miami did, you never really felt Miami was in it. And last night it was no different.
I'm gonna go on record. And when I say this, I'm going to just go on record and say this. Nikola Jokic is officially the best center in all of basketball. He is the second best player in basketball. And I think Giannis the best player in all around in basketball. But I think he's the best center. I think he's surpassed Joel Embiid at this point right now. The way the guy plays. I mean, Miami tried to throw everything at him. It didn't work on Denver. Didn't work. They tried to throw a zone defense. Didn't work. They tried to play man when they tried to jump Jamal Murray. Yes, he had a bad game, but by Jamal Murray being a willing passer and Coach Mike Malone put in Nikola Jokic in the middle of the zone, or whenever they jump Jamal Murray, it gives them an extra playmaker that can either provide. You saw it all night long. Nikola Jokic had too many easy floaters, but when he didn't have the floater, you saw him make plays. And you saw people like Christian Braun, Michael Porter Jr. able to attack the basket. Regardless, you got to give credit to Eric Spoelstra. He tried it, and Denver just responded to everything he tried. And at the end of the day, Miami just didn't have enough. They just didn't have enough. I mean, Jimmy Butler struggled all game long until the fourth quarter. Jimmy Butler scored the last 15 in the fourth quarter. He scored the last 15 points. And you just saw everybody else just standing around depending on Jimmy Butler. This is the second straight year he didn't burn himself out. He didn't ran pretty much out of gas trying to get this team over the top. And another thing I did realize, Bam Adebayo is not going to get it done as your second best player. That's just is what it is. He's just not going to get it done. Now, he had a hot start. Early in the game. But he's just not going to get it done as your second best player. It's clearly Miami needs somebody else. They need somebody else on the perimeter that can make a play, that can create a shot. Because clearly Matt Screws can't create. He's nothing more but a shooter. Gabe Vincent, when he's off, he's unreliable. Kevin Love, how much can he give you? He can give you some rebounding, but nothing more. It's clearly that Miami probably need one more piece on the perimeter. That needs to be on the perimeter. Bam Adebayo is going to be an all-defensive team guy. He's going to put you 17 points per game. But in the playoffs, he cannot be your second-best player on the floor. But if you can get there with Jimmy Butler and Bam alone, that tells you don't need a lot. You need just probably one more piece that can get you there. And other than that, it's hard to defend Jokic because when he's not impacting the game in scoring, he's impacting the game in playmaking. He's impacting the game by getting a defensive rebound and running out in transition and starting a break. He's played some hell of a defense, man. He's been playing some hell of a defense this whole playoff series. Michael Porter Jr. finally stepped up last night, but the defensive effort by Caldwell Pope, this man flew around the court all night long. And got to give credit to Denver. They were the better team all year. They were the better team by far. And just Miami just was outmatched. They didn't have an answer. And just got to give credit to Denver for making the adjustments. And then you never got a sense, even when Miami was up 10 in the first half, even though it's just the first half, but you never got a sense. If Denver stayed close, Denver going to find a way to win this game. If they stay close in this game, that's all they needed to do. They got on that third quarter run, got down by 170. In the fourth quarter, bam, you knew they were going to win the game at that point. And down the stretch, Jimmy Butler made 15 straight points for them. Denver keep throwing Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic at them, and nobody else responded outside of Jimmy Butler in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, Mo, give me your last impressions on game number 5, man.
So you know what? I will say this on the point that Joker is the second best player in the league. I'm the biggest Giannis fan. I'm a bigger Giannis fan than I am of Joker. But I would actually say I think Joker might be the best player in the league right now.
I know no argument out of me. No argument out of me. No argument.
And I know that Giannis is, if you go two-way, he's more impactful defensively. But I would say this: Jokic's offense is so impactful, it can offset what someone does defensively. He literally controls not just what your defense does. He's moving pieces around like a chess player on offense. He's anticipating back cuts. When they run floppy motion off the ball, he anticipates you trying to play the passing lane, and he leads you like a quarterback and offsets you by going the opposite way. Like, to me, and look, to me, it's literally this close. Both of them now are NBA champions. Both of them now have final MVPs. So to me, Jokic could be the best player in the NBA on Monday. Giannis could be the best on Friday. I think between those two guys, it goes back and forth. The thing that makes it special, though, is this. Jokic, skill-wise, offensively, he is the most complete package offensively from the center position I've ever seen. And the fact that Giannis can be as dominant as he is, and he's got holes in his game, we can all concede. Even with the holes in his game, the man can find a way to dominate the game. So I think they're both very unique players. But I would literally say that, to me, you could go 1A, or you could just say they're both 1A. I think it's that close.
Yeah, no argument out of me. You say Jokic the best player, that no argument out of me. You get no argument from me. Chris, your final reactions on this game, number 5.
I think a lot of times in sports, we overreact, right? So a championship happens, fall out from the Super Bowl, fall out from Game 5, fall out from a World Series. And as fans, we kind of look at it and you have those big overreactions. Well, this team did this, so now they're going to be amazing. And you have those takes. That's not what we have here. Keep in mind, before he was a champion, he was a 2-time back-to-back NBA MVP. And let's be honest, he should have won it this season. The league didn't give it to him because how do you give it to him 3 times and have that conversation when he isn't really doing anything besides dominating the regular season? I think that might change moving forward. I think that the league decided to give it to somebody that the fans appreciate a little more in Joel Embiid. He's a little more personality out there. His game is a little more relatable to younger fans, and that's another story for another day. I think he should have won it 3 in a row, but you're looking at a guy that was already great. What back-to-back NBA MVP isn't already great?
Yep.
So now he's already great. Now he has the championship hardware to go with the fact that he's great. And now we're going to see what takes place over the next 2 or 3 years, because it's not out of the possibility to say he wins another chip. It's not out of the possibility to say he wins another MVP. Are we in 3 years? Are we talking about a 3-time MVP with 2 or 3 titles? We might be. Yeah. At that point, you're opening up a whole different set of conversations.
The conversation changes
about him completely. But if just what you have today, 2-time NBA MVP, 1-time NBA champion, that right there is pretty great in my book.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty great in my book as well. Like I say, we all touched on it, but congratulations to the Denver Nuggets, first championship in NBA history right here. But other than that, the Denver Nuggets put it together the next 2 to 3 years for multiple title runs? Chris, I'm going to start this with you. Do they got 2 more championships in them, or just at least 3? Do they got at least 3 more in them? Will this team stay together? If this team stays together,
the team's gonna stay together. There's no reason to think the team's gonna be split apart anytime soon as far as that goes. But it's so much more about what's around them, right? So if you take a look at the West right now, what's really coming up that's going to be in their way? And the short answer is nothing. There isn't much out there today. And obviously free agency can shift some things, and we might have a different conversation in a few months. But if you're looking at the landscape of the NBA right now, the way the Warriors are currently constructed, they can't stop them. The way the Lakers are currently constructed, they can't stop them. Phoenix might be the closest, but even in that series, I'm not taking Phoenix. So what is going to stand in their way in the West? And there isn't really anything right now that's going to do that. Then you look at the East and you feel even less confident in what's happening out there in the East, because I think Boston probably has the best chance, but Boston can't even get themselves to the finals in a season where it was pretty much laid out for them, right? Giannis and company, they looked really old, really quick when the playoffs hit. Not quite sure what happened there. They had some retooling to do. But when you're going into next season, obviously they won the championship, so you're going to anoint them as the best team going in. But if you take that out of it and you just look at talent and the way teams are comprised, your list of teams that could potentially beat them, there's maybe 1 or 2 out there. So you have to say for at least the next season or 2, they're going to be title favorites. So it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility for them to win at least 1 more. I this morning, I put them in the finals next year in the West. The way things are currently comprised, I cannot sit here and be like, this team is going to be the team that knocks them off next year. Obviously, that can change in a couple months, but the way things are currently comprised, I don't see them not getting back there next season.
Low.
Look, I think we're all on the same page on this one to a degree. You look at the Western Conference, and people are always talking about how it's stronger than the East, but the truth is, it's probably stronger more on the back end. The top of the West is not that strong. The Lakers got to the conference finals, but their flaws, they need an athletic wing that can not just defend but score. They don't have that. You can look at the Warriors. They actually need an athletic big who can defend and hold down, and they don't have that. So they both have open flaws, and Golden State's not any younger. The Lakers aren't any younger. The Warriors core four, they're all in their mid-30s, except for Wiggins. So they have a lot of question marks. LeBron is, and look, we can all appreciate what he's done 20 years in, but this will be year 21. And while he puts up the numbers, you can still see the fatigue late in games. You can still see the difference as he ages. Anthony Davis is going to always be a talent, but he's also going to miss games.
Yep.
You know he's going to miss games at some point during the season. Austin Reeves, everybody can say, was a revelation. Came out of nowhere. The guy turned himself into part of that core. But when you look at the Lakers as a whole, they're not ready to compete with the Nuggets. Not really, not on a championship level. I don't think there's nobody in the West today, like Chris said, because there will be some moves made, but everybody's going to be competing again for the same player services.
Yep.
So to me, the West is clear, barring injury, because we always have to put barring injury. But let's assume Denver goes through the regular season. They're healthy, and their core is intact for the next 3 years anyway. These guys are all in their mid-20s. I don't see anybody beating them in the West, and unless there's some kind of monster move in the East, I don't think there's anybody in the East beating them either.
Yep. Like I would say, from the Eastern Conference, you're going to have Miami. You're going to have Miami, who were just in the finals. One more move, I think they're there. Milwaukee, you can add a question if they sign Middleton or Lopez back. They're gonna be at the top of the East. But goddamn, Middleton also stay hurt. He also has questions. He's good when he's out there, but he's hurt all the time. So, but then again, they gotta sign them. They gotta sign them back. Boston, it depends on what they do with Jaylen Brown, which is, I think they got to figure that out real quickly. They got to figure that out real quickly if they want to pay him or pay Jason Tatum, because you ain't paying both of them $600 million. You're not doing that. You're not emptying your pocketbooks to do that. Philadelphia, they're not a serious championship contender. Everybody, Cleveland, they're not a championship contender. Now, New York Knicks, not a championship contender. So I only see at least 3 teams at best in the Eastern Conference that can really be a title contender. Now you go in the West, it's a lot of ifs. It's a lot of ifs. It's a lot of what ifs in the Western Conference. What if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George can stay healthy, which is you can depend on them to stay healthy for another season. What if Kevin Durant? He still got some injury issues. He got some injury issues, but at the end of the day, they need a point guard. They need a point guard to fix their situation, and they need some depth. And plus, you're not going to trust them in the series. You're not going to trust them in the 7-game series. And you got all down the bottom of the West. You got the Kings, who are not going to be ready yet. You got the Golden State Warriors. I think that core could be over with soon. So you got a lot of what ifs in the Western Conference. I still think the West is slightly stronger than the East because they got more. Dallas even tanked the last 2 games for a damn draft pick. That's so hilarious right there. But other than that, you got a lot of what ifs in the Western Conference. But I still think the West is slightly better than the Eastern Conference. Eastern Conference is at the bottom when the weak links come at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. So other than that, I think Denver. This is Denver. I think I wouldn't be upset if Denver have a chance to go back, repeat next year, because everything is a what up in the Western Conference. The Western Conference can be dangerous, but everything is a what up. You got a lot of star players going to be injured. You can't depend on to play for a full season. In the East, bottom of the East, you got Charlotte. You got Toronto, who's going to enter in a rebuild. You can't trust Atlanta because Trae Young is a diva at this point of time. So you got about at least 3 good teams in the Eastern Conference who can compete for a championship. At least who can compete and get to the Eastern Conference Finals. In the West, you got multiple teams. You can have multiple teams, but it's a lot of what else. And Denver is the only clear team, if they stay healthy, I can see coming out of the West and going back to back. And
hey, Coach, Denver also has the advantage that the other teams are looking for. Denver's depth, we're always talking about depth. Well, they don't lack depth. They have plenty of depth. And they have guys that can do multiple things. Aaron Gordon came into the NBA more as a small forward. But as his career has progressed, he's a guy that can guard at an elite level the small forward position he's physically strong enough to guard power forwards. And on offense, you can't put a wing on him. He will just bully ball you into the basket and get dunks. What I love about Aaron Gordon is he recognizes what he can and can't do. He's not going to break you down off the dribble, but he's learned to beat you with his mind by posting, by cutting back doors, by reading what Joker is reading. And their chemistry, Aaron Gordon must catch 4 or 5 lobs a game. If he doesn't catch a lob, he catches a deep post move. Like, Aaron Gordon is one of the more underrated players. And it's funny because we're in an era where we talk about 3 and D. He doesn't really shoot the 3 as much, but he plays D at a high level. And because he stays in his lane, he's going to get you 16 to 18 points a night and hanging around the basket. I just look at Denver's deep team and their depth coach, and they're set to win. Look, let's say in the next 4 years, if they win 2 titles, that wouldn't shock me.
Yep.
They might win 3, and that's really tough in today's NBA. But I think that this core is going to win at least 1 more title.
Yep. Got you on this one. So we already explained, like I said, Joel Embiid, this answer, top 5 center in the league. We can argue, raise your hand if you don't think he's the best center in the league. We're going to just raise your hand if you don't think he is. If you don't think he is.
Oh, I don't think he is.
The best center in the NBA?
No. Yeah, I don't think he's the best center in the NBA.
Who you got is the best center in the NBA?
I got Joker.
Yeah, I'm just saying, raise your hand if you don't think he is.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Embiid. My bad.
Yeah. If you don't think he is, so everybody agreed that he is the best center in the NBA at this point. Yeah. Oh, gotcha. So now we got Jimmy Butler. We already know Jimmy Butler played piss poorly throughout the first half. He had the last 15 points of the game. Is this comes a scenario again? Mo, I'm gonna start this question up with you. Did Jimmy Butler get fatigued last night? Or what was the problem with Jimmy Butler and throughout this whole series? But the problem is, did he get fatigued last night? Do you sense a lot of fatigue in him?
I think he's worn down, but I think he's worn. Look what they are. Like, they're a true 8th seed. This isn't one of those things like, had they been 100% healthy, they would have been a 2nd seed. They're an 8th seed, and they've been on an amazing run. So did he look worn down last night? I thought he looked worn down the last 3 games, but let's credit a lot of that being worn down to his offense and defense. He's got to try to guard Jamal Murray, which is not an easy guard. Then he's got to go on the other end and have Aaron Gordon guarding him. I think he physically got worn down, but it's not like it's an injury. It's the way the Nuggets played. I'm going to give the Nuggets credit for what they did in making him expend that much energy. And at the same time, I'm going to acknowledge, because he's the only guy on Miami that can create off the bounce, so much is asked of him because everybody else is dependent on him to eat. They don't have anybody else in this current NBA. Shooting is at a premium, but almost equally at a premium are guys that can create their own shots. Miami has one of those. That's a problem.
Yep. Chris?
I don't think Jimmy Butler had a fatigue problem as much as he had an Aaron Gordon problem. Aaron Gordon needs to get a little more attention for what he did in this finals. Aaron Gordon did what Andrew Wiggins did last year for the Warriors. He is a former top 5 pick. He is on not the team that drafted him. He was picked up by a team that realized his talent, which is defensive side first, which is what he was this season. He was a lockdown elite defender. That is what he did to Jimmy Butler. He completely took Jimmy Butler out of the game. Now, add on to that the fact that Miami has no other scoring outlets. Yep. So, it doesn't help when Jimmy's trying to do everything up essentially by himself. So that's definitely a part of it. But you look at Aaron Gordon being elite on the defensive side. Going into last night, he was averaging like 17 in the series. I think he only had a handful of points last night. But going into game 5, he's averaging 17. That's basically what he is. He's a 16 to 18 point a guy night on top of locking down on the other side on defense. He isn't going to be a 2, but he's going to be a great 3. Yeah. And that's what this team needed out of him. And he talked about it after the game last night. He talked about how coming over here, I like defense. I like playing defense. I knew I was coming here to play D. That's what I did. And as far as the offensive side goes, he basically said, I'll get my points when I get my points. That is the literal perfect mindset to have for that kind of player. You come over here, you do what we need you to do, lock down on defense, just like Wiggins did for the Warriors, come play defense, have a little bit of size and length, and then we'll fit you in offensively with what works best for us. And that's exactly what Denver figured out to do. And that's why I think, going back to our previous conversation, they're going to be in it for the next 3 or 4 years because that core three isn't changing. And that core three is young. They're in their prime. And as long as they remember their roles and don't do anything crazy out there, that's going to be hard to beat. And he is such a huge part of that. So circling back to Jimmy, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot when you expend the energy that he did earlier in the playoffs. It's a lot when you have to be playoff Jimmy just to get your team to win a game in the playoffs. Like that's a lot. And you have to look at it also. That's not Jimmy Butler during the regular season. So that's a part of it too. It's not like he's going off 20 times, during the regular season, having these games like this. That's not who he is. So it's great that he has these amazing bursts in the playoffs, but the dude's human. It's not what he normally does. So it's going to take a little more out of him. Add on to that the fact he's being locked down on the defensive side. Add on to that the fact that they don't have a plan B on offense. Yep. It all comes together, and this is what you get, unfortunately.
Yep.
Let me add on one more thing too about Jimmy Butler, coach. Let's not forget. I mean, Chris made a great point. I think in Jimmy Butler's career, I'm just talking about what he's done over the breadth of his career as a star. I don't think he's ever taken more than 16 shots per game. Think about that for a minute. Like in an era where guys launch in 2020, he's never taken more than 16 shots a game. So Jimmy Butler's never been a volume scorer. He said it himself. I'm not really a scorer. He's been put in the role as the number one because he's clearly their best player. But Jimmy Butler's not going to take 25 shots on average. That's just not who he is and who he's been. And that goes to your point, Coach. Clearly, they need another guy alongside him on the perimeter that can take some pressure off of him and Bam. You're right. Bam is not your third option, not offensively. He can be your third best player, but you might want him to be your fourth option offensively to let him do what he does best, and that's play defense, move in space, come from the weak side, get block shots. That would be a better version of Bam. Jimmy Butler, like Chris said, it was the Aaron Gordon factor, and we mentioned it earlier. Aaron Gordon was just terrific on both sides of the ball, and he's their unsung hero. We're going to always look at Joker. We're going to always look at Jamal Murray's shot-making ability, what Porter Jr. can do when he gets on fire. But the guy that people need to pay attention to, and another guy I'll throw in there too who played great defense, Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown also, when he's in the game, he's a tenacious defender. But Aaron Gordon, whoever he guarded, their percentage dropped automatically. He's been that good a defender throughout the playoffs, throughout the regular season, and I'm with Chris. He deserves a lot more credit.
Yeah, people forgot. Aaron Gordon used to be an 18-point per game scorer in Orlando, but that's Orlando. Orlando, that's when everybody went there, and they didn't bring out everybody's full potential. They traded away, Victor Oladipo. They played him wrong. And all of a sudden, Aaron Gordon becomes an 18-point per game scorer. Now he goes to Denver. Now he's inserted into the right role that he actually wanted to play. And I'm going to also throw some at it. Jimmy Butler, you remember that series versus Boston when they were up 3-0 and that series was extended? I would throw that as another reason as well. When you got that series over with and you expected that series to be over with, when you drop that game at home, you end up dropping the game at Boston and losing on a heartbreaker on that tip in, the more that series extended, Jimmy Butler really actually legs kind of went out. And you saw it in this series. Jimmy Butler, when he shot the ball short, or he either shot it hard off the back iron. And before the fourth quarter, he was 2 for 12 going into the fourth quarter, the last 6 minutes of the ball game, until he went 15 unanswered. But also, like we said, we do got to give credit to Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, and KCP. They threw different bodies on Jimmy Butler. They kind of wore him down. They kind of made life tough for him. And again, when you got one guy like that can create his own shot, create his own shot like that, and nobody else can't really do anything, hey, that's a recipe for disaster. And you just got to give credit to Aaron Gordon. It's not like they really double team him to get the ball out of his hand. Yes, they showed him a little bit, but a lot of times they played him one-on-one. They did a hell of a job on him. They made him work. They forced him in some tough opportunities as well. They just got to give Denver more credit, man. KCP, like I said, was all over the floor last night. He was everywhere on the floor. I mean, you thinking Miami about to have a open dunk or open fast break? You see Caldwell Pope flying down the court, deflecting the ball out of bounds. And Bruce Brown comes in. He's solid on offense. Definitely improved his offensive game, but defensively, he's pretty good. So those three get full credit. And whenever Aaron Gordon was out of the game, KCP will take control of Jimmy Butler, or they would throw Bruce Brown him. So they threw three guys. That's three big time defenders that really guarded Jimmy Butler and kind of wore him down a lot. But that series that against Boston that kind of extended, that took a toll on a lot. The same toll it took to get them to back to Miami last year, where Jimmy Butler took that three-pointer because he was so tired and fatigued. He didn't want to go into another overtime, and he did a lot. I think he had 40 in that game 6 in Boston to extend it to Miami to go to a game 7. This is the second straight year he kind of did a lot, but you also got to reward the Denver Nuggets defense on how they played on him and how they kept him in front of him, kept him in front. And like I said, you just got to give the Denver Nuggets the credit, man. They got some players on that. They got some dogs on that defensive team on the defensive side. So full credit goes to the Denver Nuggets for holding down Jimmy. And so we also got, Chris, I'm gonna start this with you. What does Miami Heat need to do in this offseason to repeat this playoff run, to get back to the finals and probably win it? What do they need to improve on? What players do they need? What you think they need more in the offseason?
First things first, I hope that Miami Heat fans can walk away from this season with perspective.
Yes.
It was a great run. It really was. I take nothing away from the Heat. I'm a big believer that no matter what happens in the NBA playoffs, there's just moments where you need things to kind of fall your way. And Miami definitely had some things fall their way, but at the same time, they did what they had to do to get to where they got to.
Yep.
So look at the season as a whole as an accomplishment. And then in a month or two, I want fans to look back and then be realistic. This was an 8th seed.
Yeah.
It was an 8th seed that should have been an 8th seed. It wasn't a situation where they were hammered down by injuries all season. They all came back healthy in the playoffs. Yep. They really should have been a 2 or a 3. No, this was an 8th seed that lost the first game of their play-in. So that's what you're working with. So be realistic when you're looking at the rest of the East and how you match up, because I feel like going into next season, if you're being honest with yourself, Miami is most likely, again, we got to see how things shake out, but they're most likely going to be below Boston. They're most likely going to be below Milwaukee. Those aren't out of the box things. So those are realistic. Yep. Miami needs a 2. They don't have a 2 on that roster right now. It's not Bam. It's not Hero. They need a 2. So that's where it all begins for me. Who are you going to run out there with Jimmy Butler? And honestly, and come at me if you want to come at me, maybe you find a 1. Maybe Jimmy's not your 1. Maybe Jimmy is your 2. Because again, like Mo said, Jimmy isn't that volume shooter. He isn't that 25 shot a night kind of guy. Now, I'm not saying you're going to find that in the free agent market. I'm not saying that guy's a one's just hanging out to become a part of your team, because right now it's not. That would require some sort of move on their part. But that's what Miami needs to be looking at. They need to be looking at, what is our duo going into next season? Jimmy and who? Is it Jimmy and someone who is pretty much on the same par as him, which could be a high-level 2, a low-level 1? What does that look like? That's what they have to address first. Once they address that, a little more depth here and there, I think would benefit them. But it really starts with finding that running mate for Butler.
No, go ahead.
I agree 100%. And I'll go back to what I said. It isn't that Jimmy Butler is not a star or a superstar, but he's not the kind of guy that should be your closer offensively, at least not consistently.
Yeah.
They need somebody. I think Jimmy wouldn't mind. Let me say this first of all. If you know Jimmy Butler's personality and his game, I don't think he'd have a problem if another guy came in and averaged 25, 26 points a night. I don't think that would change his attitude one way or another. I think he would welcome that, and then he'd be free to be more do the Jimmy Butler things, lock down more on defense. He'd have more offensive energy. He'd be more efficient late in games. He'd have his legs should they go on a long playoff run. So, yes, it's funny. We were talking about number 2, but Chris, and you hit on it. They don't need a number 2. They need to find a number 1 offensive option. So you need to try. Look, and I'll say this. Do not sleep. Never sleep on Pat Riley. Don't sleep on Pat Riley.
Yeah, he always gonna be in something. Yeah.
Pat Riley he'll sacrifice as many picks as he needs to. He will absolutely throw away the future if it means he has a legit shot at getting a ring. So I think that Miami, they've got to pursue number 1 options. Be it, I don't care if if you can get Dame. Look, even a guy who some would say is a lesser player, but I think in terms of what he can do as being a bucket getter, a Zach LaVine, or even his teammate DeMar DeRozan, who's another bucket getter. DeMar DeRozan and Jimmy are kind of similar in their games because both of their superpowers is getting to the free throw line. So I don't know if you need 2 of them, but the point is we all agree what the Heat need. When you look at the convoluted East and how it's all bunched together, and you go Milwaukee, Boston's going to be there. New York's going to make the playoffs, but I don't see them as title threats, playoff contenders. But Milwaukee and Boston are title contenders. Miami is one legit number 1 option away, in my opinion, from being right there with Boston and Miami. Boston and Milwaukee.
Again, if you can get that with Jimmy Butler and Bam alone and with a missing Tyler Hero, you don't need much. You probably need just that one piece. And I think that one piece, like I said, is on the perimeter. You need it on the perimeter. You need a secondary scorer that come in and help Jimmy Butler out. Again, Jimmy Butler already admitted it on his own when he was in Minnesota. He even said this, I'm not the best player on this team. Karl Anthony Towns is the most gifted. Andrew Wiggins actually is the best player on this team. But the problem is they didn't want to work. They didn't have the work ethic that he had. That was the problem. That's the problem. And that's what Jimmy Butler had problems with. They didn't want to work. They didn't want to work. They had a terrible work ethic. Now, granted, give credit to Andrew Wiggins. He went to Golden State. That kind of changed a lot. That helped him. That helped him be one of the top players on the team. Argue he could have been the MVP in that series. Could have been the MVP of that series. That helped him out. A lot. Karl Anthony Towns, still the same player. Great regular season numbers. Playoffs, he's a no-show. That's why his nickname is Mr. No-Show for me, because he doesn't show up. When you get played by Clint Capella, that's all you need to know right there. When you get outplayed by Clint Capella, that's all you actually need to know. But other than that, Miami is one more piece of way. Last time, I think Chris Paul coming out, get some stability, but I don't think Chris Paul will be the legit answer. I think if you do get Chris Paul, you still need a guy on the perimeter. I actually do think you still need a guy on the perimeter to come in to take some of that load off Jimmy Butler. But other than that, the Miami Heat is not far. I only see 2 legit teams, and if Miami can get that piece, I think that's the third piece to the puzzle right there. And again, we don't know what's going to happen to Milwaukee because you got Brook Lopez and Middleton. They are free agents. To this day. So we don't know if they're going to resign them back. So if they don't resign back, then hey, you got questions about them too. Only with Giannis being down. That's another team that can probably fall off the radar. Then hey, Miami is right back down. Miami is right back in the door. So other than that,
let me ask you a question.
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
He's really good at pulling off these kind of moves that you don't see coming. Let's say Milwaukee doesn't want to give Chris Middleton a max, and between him and his agent, it's a low ball offer. Who's to say that Pat Riley won't swoop in?
Oh, Pat Riley's.
You know what I mean? Like Chris Middleton, he's not a superstar, but he'd be a great fit.
He could be a great fit, though. Yes.
Yeah. I'm just saying, Pat Riley, the wheels are always moving, and he's really good at swooping in and taking advantage of a player feels disrespected or lowball with their contracts. Pat Riley is when it comes to talking people, he puts them rings on the floor on the table, and he talks about culture. Pat Riley's he's a bad man.
Chris Middleton is a 20-point per game scorer and
And
an
he can lock
all-star
down on
when he
defense.
plays, and an all-star when he played. And this is a guy that hit big shots in the Milwaukee title run when he was actually on the floor. So Chris Middleton, hey, he will be a good fit, man. He will be a good fit. At least you ain't got to rely on Jimmy Butler all the time to make a play and fit him along with Tyler Hero, who's a 20-point per game scorer this year. Hey, man, the sky's the limit. But don't never rule Pat Riley up out of a deal. When a big name come up, Pat Riley is going to be a part of that deal. You can trust me, Pat Riley. And he knows how to influence a superstar or a star to come there. He knows how to does it. He knows how to do it. So, again, let's hope. Let's see what Miami can do. Now, this is an interesting question because I got two interesting names that I'm gonna bring up to you guys. I actually got two interesting names that I'm gonna bring up to you guys. Now, the question is, Jimmy Butler. Is Jimmy Butler to this day, or when he retires, a Hall of Famer? But I'm gonna tell you the two guys that's in the Hall of Fame that Jimmy Butler got better resumes than. Tim Hardaway Jr. is a Hall of Famer.
Chris Webber?
No, Tim Hardaway.
I mean Chris Webber.
Yep, Chris Webber. But Tim Hardaway Jr. He's a Hall of Famer. The Tim Hardaway Jr.'s Tim Hardaway Jr.'s son that's in the NBA that plays for Dallas. His dad, 5-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA, averaged 20 points per game 5 times in the season. Doesn't have no all-defensive teams, hasn't even sniffed the finals yet. Now, one of my most overrated players in the game, I think he's a great shooter. I think he's actually a great shooter. Reggie Miller, 5-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA, 6 times he's averaged 20 points per game. 1 time he's been in the finals. That was against the Los Angeles Lakers. Jimmy Butler, 6-time All-Star, 5 times All-NBA, averaged 20 points per game, 7 seasons. 5-time All-NBA, 5-time All-Defensive Team, and 2-time finals. They got Hardaway Jr. and Reggie Miller is a Hall of Famer. So does Jimmy Butler resume gets him in the Hall of Fame? Mo, you got the question.
Well, like you pointed out, and I was going to point out some other players. The list is long.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
There are guys that are in the Hall of Fame that I don't even know why they're in the Hall of Fame. I have a problem with the whole Hall of Fame voting system because, and this is no offense to European players, there's a lot of gifted European players.
Yeah.
But the way a lot of them get into the Hall of Fame is they throw out the things that they did in the Euro League, and their NBA careers are average at best. I mean, Vlade Divac's in the Hall of Fame. The man went to 1 All-Star game, won no titles, at no time was ever the best player on any team he ever played on, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So I've got a problem with that already. And to me, just starting with somebody like him, or look, and I'm not trying to kill Chris Webber. Chris Webber's a great player.
Yep.
But if you look at the breadth of his resume and his and the accolades, the All-Star appearances, Jimmy Butler has more. And Jimmy Butler has done something that a lot of guys that are in the Hall of Fame never did. He's taken a team to the finals twice as their best player. Look, Clyde Drexler did that, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Now, he did win a title, but he won that as a role player or a sidekick to Hakeem Olajuwon. I'm just saying, to me, it's not a question. He might not have the flashiest game. And I heard somebody say, how is he a Hall of Famer? He's not like Kyrie. And I'm like, no, look, if you go on pure skill, if you go to a basketball camp and talk about all the things a player could or should be able to do, Kyrie Irving, from a skill standpoint, is one of the 3 most skilled players in the NBA, period, bar none. He's just that skilled. But skill alone doesn't make you a great player. Kyrie is a terrific sidekick, at least he was years ago with LeBron. But as a team's best player, he can't take you nowhere. He don't take you nowhere. He didn't improve anything. Dallas thought they had a big move by trading him. As soon as he got there, they got worse. It's not an accident. They got worse. When he was in the Celtics as the best player, as soon as he left, they got better. The got better. So I don't look at numbers. I look at impact. And I think that Jimmy Butler, as a leader, look, there are more talented, more gifted, flashy guys that can hang in the air. There's all those things. But a lot like Jokic, I'm not looking at your highlight reel. I'm just looking at what you do when it matters most. He does not have the flashiest numbers, but his teams win. He's a winner. He's come up short, so he didn't have any titles. But neither does Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing and many other Hall of Fame players. And there are a lot of lesser players in terms of achievement and numbers that are in the NBA Hall of, or it's not the NBA Hall of Fame, it's the Basketball Hall of Fame. So to me, if you're asking if he's that today, I think he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think there's any question Jimmy Butler's a Hall of Famer, and he's not done yet. He's probably going to add a couple of more All-Star appearances, another All-NBA appearance, probably get on another All-NBA defense team. And like you said, Coach, if the moves are made, let's say Jimmy Butler's in another finals, and he does have that guy that can go for 25 or 30 a given night, he's probably going to add a title to his resume. But as of right now, today, with what he's done, I don't think there's a question of, you know what's funny? Paul George has gone to more All-Star games, so he has more accolades in that sense.
Yep.
Most guys that are 7 or 8-time All-Stars, they're locks for the Hall of Fame. I revere Jimmy Butler more than I revere Paul George.
Yes.
I think there's no question Jimmy Butler is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Matter of fact, Paul George never went to the NBA Finals, and he can't take a team to an NBA Finals yet. As the number one player, I don't think Paul George can.
Or as the number 2 player so far.
Yep, because he struggled every time he got in too. So, Chris, what you think? What you think about this?
The thing about the Hall of Fame is every year they got to put someone in, right?
Yep.
Every year they got to put multiple people in. That eventually becomes a flawed system because, in theory, the Hall of Fame is the greatest players to have ever played the game. There aren't that many technically when you're talking about the greatest. There shouldn't be, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 players going in every year that are all considered the same level of greatness. So that's the initial flaw with the Hall of Fame. When you talk about Jimmy Butler, when it comes to the Hall of Fame, obviously you can start cherry picking guys and being like, well, his resume is better than this person. His resume is better than that person. And that's fair, right? Because if they're already in there and he wants to go in there, well, what are we comparing it to? You also have to take in consideration, what do the voters feel like that time around? How do they feel about Jimmy, right? It's so subjective. But I look at it like this. Look at the NBA right now. Game 7, 5 minutes to play. Who do you trust more than Jimmy? Are there 5 guys? Are there 5 guys that you're down by 5 points with under 5 minutes to go? Game 7 that you trust more than Jimmy Butler? 5? I don't know. Maybe
that's a really good question. I don't know.
Maybe Steph.
Yep.
Steph would be one.
Okay. You got 4 more?
Obviously I trust Joker. You know what? There's 2 All-NBA players in Boston. I don't trust them.
Nope.
I don't trust them. I don't trust Embiid. I don't trust Embiid. I don't trust him.
I don't trust Durant. I don't trust Booker.
I don't trust KD at this point in his career. I don't.
Joel Embiid, the last one you need to trust.
I mean, out of respect, I might trust LeBron in that spot just because of the resume. But 2023 version of LeBron, I'm hit or miss on. I would take Jimmy over LeBron right now in that spot. But I think I would put LeBron into that conversation just because of the resume. But
you know what? I trust Damian Lillard late in games.
Yeah. He's proven he can hit the big shot. He's proven. Yeah, I probably still ain't recovered after he did to my Rockets the first year. Him and Dwight Howard James Harden, Dwight did it. He hit so many clutch shots. I mean, you go back to the game 6, he hit that 3 coming off that screen. You go back to the goddamn Oklahoma City Thunder when he hit that 3 right up in Paul George's face and did the signature box. Hey, he hit so many big shots. Yes, he hit that right in that man's face. And like you said again, Jimmy Butler at this point, I do think he does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. But I'm gonna go back. And like you said, when you spoke on the Kyrie Irving, that would kind of made me put the light in top of my head. And you said every team he go to got worse. Every team he go to got worse. But I'm gonna tell you this: 2 times Boston actually got better. One, the first year when he got hurt, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown was a rookie. You remember that season? They went to the
conference finals, didn't they?
Yep,
they got better.
Yeah, they got better when he was actually off the floor. He come back the very next year, they worse. They have locker room issues. All of a sudden, and he goes to the press conference. He say, "Yeah, I should have took 30 shots a game." And he played trash against Milwaukee. He played garbage. They win game 1. They get swept the whole series. They get swept right after the whole series. Then he leaves, go to Brooklyn. Guess what? Boston gets better again. Boston comes back. They go to the final. The very next year, Boston is in the finals against Golden State. They did lose, but every year they get better. But Dallas.
Hey, don't forget, Coach. Boston swept Kyrie and KD's Nets. They swept them.
Yep. They put the comma on them. They put the comma on them as well. That's their final champ. That's when they went to that final state. Yeah. They swept them. Then he goes to Dallas, but that was I blame that. I do blame that on Mark Cuban from trading away all his defensive guys. He traded away all the damn defensive guys and got Kyrie. The problem wasn't even the scoring. The problem was the defensive side of the ball. Luka came out and said it. They literally couldn't guard nobody. Anybody can score on us, and which it was true. But everywhere Kyrie Irving went, the team actually got worse. And every team that he left actually got better. So again, I applaud Jimmy Butler, man. He definitely is a Hall of Famer at this point. You're going to put Tim Hardaway Jr. and Reggie Miller in the Hall of Fame and stuff. Jimmy Butler got a better resume than those guys. And again, man, I'm a big fan of Jimmy Butler. I'm just a big fan of Jimmy Butler.
Like Chris said, they put a lot of guys in there.
They do.
It's getting to the point like who doesn't make the Hall of Fame. That's my problem. Like it's supposed to be special. Just think about this for a minute. So Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal, Bill Russell, and Vlade Divac sit at the same table. I don't understand that. They ain't supposed to be at the same table. Like maybe they're in a penthouse and they're in the penthouse and Vlade's in the basement or something. He in the same building, but he in the basement. He shouldn't be right next to them.
Yeah, man, you gotta give a lot of D-Bob some respect, man. He played for y'all, man. You can't do that, bro.
Listen, there needs to be different colored jackets for the Hall of Fame. All right.
Yeah, maybe Vlade's in the blue room. He in the blue room.
Like you can come in, but you don't have access to everything unless you've done something.
Chris, that's perfect. Vlade's in the building, but he can't get up to the VIP floor.
That's right.
He on that floor where they're serving up cold cuts. That's where he is.
So, got another topic. Do you think Marc Jackson, if he was on the Memphis or the Pelicans staff, Mo, I'm gonna start with you. Could he help Zion or Ja Morant if he was on one of those staffs?
Let me start with this. Marc Jackson is one of those guys that's easy relatable to today's players. Plus, he's got that old school mentality. But should he take on either one of those, he would have his hands full.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be the guy that he is, but you're trying to get into a mind of a guy that's from today's era. He's dealing with social media and all that, and he's active on social media, which if I were a coach, the first thing I would tell a lot of my guys is, hey, man, stay off that social media. Just during the season, focus on the season. Focus on the mission. We got team goals. I know you have individual goals. Focus on that. Granted, that's easier said than done because guys can't wait to get to their phone and see what somebody liked or said about them. But I think Marc Jackson definitely would be an asset for somebody like Ja Morant or Zion Williamson. I think he could impact both of those guys' lives if they're open, not just to criticism, but to listen to somebody who's been a pro, had a long career, knows the rigors of the NBA season, and somebody who could get them to listen up to the fact that, dude, you are blessed. You're both not just NBA players. You're both gifted NBA players who are getting ready to have these monster contracts, and you have the kind of talent that when it's all said and done, you might be in the Hall of Fame or something like that. They have that type of ability. The question is, can he unlock that mentality out of him? Like, Ja Morant's super close to his pops. We all know that. But if his pops can't get him to slow down, and that's somebody he loves and respects, I'm not sure he's going to listen to a Marc Jackson, even though I think Marc Jackson could be an asset to that franchise. The question is, how open is Ja Morant to changing the way he looks at himself, not on the floor, but what he does in his off-court activities? Because on the floor, He's electric. We all know that. He's spectacular. You're playing professional basketball, man, and you're a gifted player, but it's a privilege to be in that league and literally be paid to play a game that we all love and play for free.
Yep.
I don't know how you get him to appreciate what he's been blessed with, but I think Marc Jackson would be the best guy for it.
Marc Jackson's going to make any situation better. That's just his personality. That's his experience. That's what he brings to the table. So if you infuse Marc Jackson into a team, into an organization, into a locker room, there's going to be a benefit from it. But let me ask you this. You got the immense talent that is Ja Morant and Zion. Without question, talent-wise, top, right? Now, they're lacking in some other areas, but if you're just looking from a pure talent ability, it's hard to argue with either of those. Let me ask you about someone else who has a lot of talent, Kyrie. How many coaches got a hold of Kyrie and fixed him? You can't be fixed unless you want to be fixed. Fact. Kyrie's gone through a lot of coaches, and he has ruined a lot of organizations. He has cost coaches jobs. He has run players out of town because they didn't want to play with him. That's Kyrie's entire career. The one thing that's been consistent through Kyrie's career, he is an electric scorer. Scoring the basketball, he has always been a top talent at that one thing. His talent has never helped him accomplish becoming a rounded NBA player, or I would even argue a rounded athlete in general, someone you can rely on, someone you can build a team around. That's not Kyrie. Is it the same for these two? I don't know. They're still young. They still have a lot of time left. Ja's very young. Zion's not that much off of him. So I agree with Mo. Bringing him in is going to help anyone if they're open to it. That's the key. And Mo, like you said, if he ain't going to listen to his dad, who he is on the record saying he's the most important male in my life, he is my role model. I would do anything for that man. He is why I am here. And you won't listen to him to get your act straightened up? Why are you going to listen to Marc Jackson?
Yep.
Because you were told to? Like, how is Marc Jackson going to connect to you the way your father isn't? When you put your father on the pedestal of how great he is and how much he means to you, Marc Jackson isn't going to compete with that. So, yes, he's going to have an impact. Do I think he can turn either of these players around morally or whatever they have going on off the floor? No. I think from a basketball stance, he can do things during the season, maybe to kind of keep them more in line. But you know the world we live in today. You can be amazing 70 games into the season, and then one night out in Miami, you slip up a little bit, and we're right back to where we were. So, I don't know.
Got y'all. Good conversation on that one. So, last topic of the day, we talk about Fred VanVleet. He turned down $22 million. This ain't the second time he did it. This ain't the second time he turned down money from Toronto. So he did turn down $22 million, which is the report did come out, I believe, yesterday. And this is the second time he turned down money from Toronto, which means he's definitely going. He's definitely leaving. I think the team is going to definitely be different going into next season. They're definitely going to be on a rebuilding course. Only player that's a part of the rebuild is Scotty Barnes. That's the only player that's going to be a part of the rebuild, it seemed like. So, Chris, the question to you, what's a great fit? What's a great fit for Fred VanVleet?
I can't describe it, but I just have a hate for him. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I like, if you put a gun to my head and you're like, why do you hate Fred so much? I honestly couldn't even give you a reason. But I watched him play, and I just don't like him. I don't know why. So let me start with that. So if you're like, man, Chris has some skewed ideas about Fred. Well, it's probably because I don't like the guy for some reason. But as far as where he can go, Houston is the first team that jumps out to me. Houston has a buttload of money. You have all those Harden rumors go. Obviously, if Harden doesn't go there, I don't think Fred goes there. But if they lock down Harden and they have some money to bring in some more pieces, because that's the NBA today. You need money, and you need to bring in pieces with that money. Now, you know how I feel about James Harden. He's not going to be your one player, but you have the money to get some things done. So if Houston uses their money wisely and they bring in a couple of high-end parts, I can see that being an option for them. Another option that I like is Orlando. Again, they got money. They have young talent over there. They have money to spend. Those are the ingredients that you need. And then I feel like anytime you're having a conversation, I know, Anthony, I get it. Like, people love Fred, and if for some reason I just hate that. A lot of it probably I'm a Warriors fan, so a lot of it probably has to do with that finals, because he was a nuisance in that series.
He torched him. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I don't watch a lot of Toronto basketball. I don't know who does, unless you're a Raptors fan. So it's not like I'm sitting here watching Toronto games hating on Fred, because I'm not. So really, when the Warriors play him, that's kind of when I get my Fred dosage. But anytime a player becomes available in the NBA these days, you always have how much does LeBron like him? Question. Because that's what the Lakers are. If LeBron likes you, there's a possibility you might go over there and play. And I'm not saying he'd be the greatest fit for LA, because I don't think he would be the greatest fit, but he is talented. So I do think whenever you have a talented player out there, if LeBron wants to play with you, I think that's always kind of on the back burner as well, because LeBron can make those things happen. But I'm looking at Houston and Orlando and the forefront, because he wants money. He turned down $22 million. I think some other things have to do with the team and how the team is being ran and his relationship with the team. But obviously money's going to come into play, and we'll see.
Mo, go ahead. And don't say my two. Don't say the two.
I don't hate Fred VanVleet. We're cool. No, look, I think that when I think of guys like VanVleet and what he can do, I'm going to look at contenders. And maybe they don't have cap space, but that's why you can negotiate a sign and trade. So we talk about point guards. I'm gonna look at Boston. Maybe Boston can make a move for him. A team like Philly could use Fred VanVleet. The Lakers could use him. I don't think VanVleet is a number 1 or number 2 option scorer. I think he's better as your third option. I think that's a better fit for him. A lot of times, really talented players get miscast as a number 1 option when that's not really their strong suit. That's not who they really are. I think he's better as a 3. So on a contending team, that's who I want on the floor. I want him as a third option if I'm the Lakers. I want him as a third option if I'm the Suns. If they can pull something off and they can get him there to go with KD and Book, they can pull something off. Maybe Ayton comes back in a trade. Some kind of move like that when I'm looking for somebody like Fred VanVleet, because I think that he's trying to be – he wants his money, but I still think he wants to be on a team that's a contender. So I'm only looking at contenders. It's really easy to go to a bad team because bad teams usually tend to have a lot of money. So if he's just looking to get paid, he can go to a few places and get paid and just sit there and watch the playoffs like the rest of us. But if he's trying to like get money and still be impactful, I'm going to look to the contenders to try to pull off some kind of sign and trade for him.
You just stole my darn pick. I have Phoenix as a spot. Chris Paul, perfect fit right there. Fred VanVleet is a 20-point per game scorer for the last 3 years in the NBA that he started at point guard, and also he's a 7-assist guy. So I say he's not a number 1 option. He's not a number 1 option, but he's a guy that can get you scoring. He's a guy that can get you scoring when need to be. And also the Clippers. Russell Westbrook he doesn't got a fully linked contract with the Clippers. So, hey, how about bringing Fred VanVleet in? Got your point guard situation, but now and probably still ain't going to help Kawhi Leonard and Paul George stay healthy. I think after next year, hey, if that continues to happen, that team needs to be broken up. It needs to be broken up, plain and simple. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George combination, they need to be broken up clear as day. They were healthy.
I want to break that up this offseason.
They are healthy. They were healthy in the bubble. That was on time, and they failed. They were up 3-1 versus Denver.
Everybody was healthy in the bubble.
Yeah. Everybody was healthy in the bubble, but the way they looked it against Denver, they looked it like because you remember that was the team that could compete with the Lakers, and I believe they would have if they would have got past. But the problem is they didn't get past them. They didn't get past the Denver Nuggets. So that remains to be seen. But I think that team is fit to be. I think that team is on a hot seat. I think that team is on a hot seat sooner or later. At the trade deadline, maybe if they go into it with the season, they probably will blow it up at that point of time. But I believe this team is close to being blown. This team is definitely on a hot seat. This team definitely is going to be blown up. Philadelphia 76ers, James Harden may not be coming back. He will be a good fill-in, but it's hard because I don't think the Sixers got that much money. Well, I don't think that Sixers got that much money at all. But I think it's going to be a contending team, a playoff team that would end up getting Fred VanVleet. Now, Orlando is not a bad option. That's not a bad option. They had a great season. They had a great season this year. They had a great season with the rookie Pablo Banchero, but I do think they got Cole Anthony, Markel Fultz, but I do think Fred VanVleet is an upgrade for those guys. So I think he's a good option. But my main two is Phoenix and the Clippers. Those are my main two options that I think that needs to happen for that can happen for Fred VanVleet. Look at Freddie talking about the Lakers. Freddie, come here.
Oh, there go Freddie. Oh.
Freddie talking about the Lakers. Freddie said, "Hey, give me Fred VanVleet over here, man. I'll take him. You'll take him on Fred. I know."
We got money for him. You know money.
Hey, Fred, you don't pay him over 22 mil, huh? You don't pay him over 22 mil, huh? You know you got to pay out. What about that man Austin Reeves? What about him?
If you pay Austin Reeves, you ain't getting no Fred VanVleet. You're not getting unless you trade Austin Reeves. I wouldn't trade Austin Reeves.
Fred, you letting Austin Reeves walk to get Fred VanVleet for over $20 million? Yeah, you know he got at that point. Said Sixers getting ready. Yeah, so any last thoughts upon this topic before we go ahead and end the show? Get up out of here, man.
I'm good.
All right, so Mo, tell the people they can find you, man.
At the Empire, Sports Empire Network. The podcast NBA Cypher drops on Wednesday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Let's do it. Chris, you want to tell the people where they can hit you at?
Just keep coming back here. Keep listening to us. Join us every morning. That's where it's at.
Yeah, got you.
We haven't told you before. Welcome, Chris. Welcome,
man. Welcome, man. Happy to have you on. It's going to be more fun of this morning show to kick off Empire Sports Network throughout the day. We got many shows coming up. So y'all, like I say again, hey, no introduction for me. Y'all already know where y'all can find me at. I'm not actually hard to find. So as a Coach Dante, my boy Mo, my guy Chris, we'll see y'all guys in another one, which will be tomorrow. Have a good rest of y'all day, guys.